Bring in the author of international bestsellers, including The War on the West, The Strange Death of Europe, and The Madness of Crowds. Douglas Murray, it's been wonderful to speak with you throughout the year and for this last time in 2023, but we'll have you back in 2024, whether you like it or not. You're coming back, Douglas. Let's start with the shameful performance of presidents of prestigious colleges, including Harvard, MIT, and Penn. This was at a congressional hearing where they refused to label anti-Semitism and calls for genocide as harassment. Here's Liz McGill as an example. She's the president of the University of Pennsylvania.
Ms. McGill, at Penn, does calling for the genocide of Jews violate Penn's rules or code of conduct? Yes or no?
If the speech turns into conduct, it can be harassment, yes.
I am asking specifically calling for the genocide of Jews. Does that constitute bullying or harassment?
If it is directed and severe or pervasive, it is harassment.
So the answer is yes.
It is a context-dependent decision, Congresswoman.
It's a context-dependent decision. That's your testimony today. Calling for the genocide of Jews is depending upon the context. That is not bullying or harassment. This is the easiest question to answer yes, Ms. McGill.
Douglas, it is the easiest question to answer yes to. How did we get here where universities are so openly hostile to mainstream views, like, I don't know, believing there are only two genders, but calling for the genocide of Jews needs further context?
First of all, it's the result, as the Israeli president told me in an interview yesterday, of decades of moral rot in the universities. As you say, Rita, these are places where people have lost their jobs because they've identified the fact of biological sex and haven't been willing to lie about it. These are institutions that have banned, for instance, members of the Trump administration from speaking on campus. These are institutions that have spent years telling us all about microaggressions, which don't seem to care very much about the biggest form of aggression imaginable, genocide, who've told us all about, hurty feelings and the importance of stamping out hate, and who can't condemn the most obvious and evil and prominent form of hate in history when it's put to them in Congress. I mean, none of these people are fit for purpose. I said when I saw these smirking responses from people like that president of the Penn State University, the sort of I worked out at first, what's she doing? Why has she got this knowing grin on her face? And I realized, well, first,
wow, wowie, wow. I'm telling you what, folks, Douglas Murray once again hits it out of the park when he was asked by Rita Pani of Sky News as to give his, opinion as to what he thinks of these professors from, I love the way she says Harvard, Penn, Yale, Princeton. I mean, all these presidents. And all they had to do was basically say, we will not tolerate any type of rhetoric that's on campus that could be misconstrued as being basically, calling for genocide. Listen, freedom of speech, you've got it. But also, these are private institutions, and they can make their own rules and regulations, and they do it all the time, folks, all the time. You've got freedom of speech up to a point, but like I said, they could if they wanted to. They do it for other things. Oh, for transgenderism, you'd mislabel somebody. Oh, guess what? Throw you in jail because you misspoke or you didn't misspeak. You actually don't want to give somebody, to be forced to call somebody by something else or call them by a pronoun. Oh, that's bad. But calling for the genocide, we got to think about that or whatever bit. And let's go back to what Douglas was talking about, that shit-eating grin, that smirk in his face on this President McGill from the University of Penn, I believe. I'm going to take it back so we can see that smirk 2 or 3 times. So let's roll it back to that. And we got a couple more clips of Douglas Murray also talking about Ibram Ibrahim Kendi, that idiot, and then Hunter Biden as well. But let's go back to McGill and let's see that crap-eating grin again on her face. And we're going to do that right now. But before we do so, I just want to let you know, welcome everybody, welcome one and all. You're watching the Dr. Nasir Shaikh Show. I'm your host, Dr. Nasir, where I give you my political prescription from my political perspective of what happens when culture, science, media, Hollywood, academia, and politics collide. Let's go that clip of McGill right now. So I've taken it back. Look at this face right here. This, folks, looks like the face of evil. And there's that crap-eating grin that we were talking about. Let's watch it in action.
As harassment. Here's Liz McGill as an example. She's the president of the University of Pennsylvania.
Ms. McGill, at Penn, does calling for the genocide of Jews violate Penn's rules or code of conduct? Yes or no?
There it is. You see that? There's that grin. Now just watch the language of her lips. Just watch the facial twitches, the muscular facial twitches as she's answering this question, as if she's basically, looking down on everybody else. And I don't understand. I'm from Penn. I'm above all of you folks. Let me give you my answer to all you peasants, all you, slaves, you vassals, you peons. That's what's coming out of these. These people are such elitists. They're elitist a-holes, folks. Elitist a-holes is what they are. Just watch his face throughout the next 30 or 40 seconds.
If the speech turns into conduct, it can be harassment, yes.
I am asking, specifically calling for the genocide of Jews, does that constitute bullying or harassment?
If it is directed and severe or pervasive, it is harassment.
So the answer is yes.
It is a context-dependent decision, Congressman.
It is a context-dependent decision, Congresswoman, a context decision. Context decision. That's unbelievable, folks. Unbelievable. Let's go to what Douglas Murray, I'm going to roll some tape of Douglas Murray giving some more context to this context decision that must be made. We're going to go to that right now.
Of the Penn State University, the sort of I worked out at first, what's she doing? Why has she got this knowing grin on her face? And I realized, well, first of all, it's of course sort of legalese, isn't it? It's this kind of, I'm going to give you a clever legal answer that doesn't leave my institution open to legal cases brought by, for instance, Jewish students for harassment. So she thought she was doing something terribly clever. What also, finally, I thought, Rita, was these people were talking like ChatGPT. They were just rolling out this answer. And as it happened, I actually asked the same questions that these leaders of major universities in America were asked. I asked the same question to ChatGPT, and ChatGPT got it right. Said actually calling for genocide is regarded as being unacceptable. So here's the interesting thing. We've got to such a state in our universities that the people who lead the universities in America are actually less moral than AI.
This is a frightening development. It really is. And like the Israeli president said, it's about a clash of civilizational values. And I want to bring you this clip. This is one of the leaders of the critical race theory movement, Ibrahim X. Kendi, who explains in this clip why, in his opinion, white folks are disconnected to humanity.
I don't think white people worldwide have really reckoned with how much their own personal identity is shaped by constructions of whiteness, and how much that construction of whiteness prevents white people from connecting to humanity.
It's Black Friday.
Douglas, this man is hugely influential, particularly in academia and the corporate world. The former CEO of Twitter gave his organisation $10 million to spread that bile.
Yes, of course, the organisation that he tried to set up at the University of Boston ended up being just a feast of corruption and much more. Who could have expected? Ibram X. Kendi, as people could probably tell from that clip, is not very bright. He tries to sort of construct ideas as he goes along, and he wades through these piles of waffle. His books are pretty unreadable. I only read them because I'm paid to. The man is a walking philosophical and moral disaster. The interesting thing about Kendi, however, is not just that he demonizes a whole race of people, he just demonizes white people in a way that would be totally unacceptable and rightly unacceptable to do about any other race. But for some reason, people seem to think at the moment it's acceptable to do about white people. It's not just that he does that. The interesting thing, Rita, is you say, he puts himself forward for very well-paid corporate gigs. But you know one thing Ibram X. Kendi will not do is to debate his ideas, to have his ideas, such as they are, contested. So I'm very happy to once again say publicly what I have said a couple of times before, which is I challenge Ibram X. Kendi to a debate anytime, anywhere, any place. I'm very happy to debate a motion of his choosing. I'm very happy for all the proceeds to go to a charity of our choice. And I'd like to see him show up once. But he has never had his facile ideas debated, and so I suggest there's a reason for that. He knows they don't stand up to scrutiny. Fine. Once again, he can reveal that fact to the public.
Okay, so my take on Ibram Kendi, Ibrahm, Ibram, and this guy took an exotic name after his real name is Henry Rogers. Henry Rogers was an absolute nobody until he decided to change his name to something that sounds really exotic. Abraham, whatever you want to call it. Kendi. But I digress, making fun of his name. But I have not seen a level of a pile of crap, the amount of verbal diarrhea that emanates from this guy. There are few people that can contest the level of verbal diarrhea that comes out of Henry Rogers' mouth. Amazing. For that, 70 or 80 seconds that he was on that stage basically saying that white people can't contemplate or can't understand their whiteness in society or whatever. What a pile of shit that was. What a crock of crap that was. But it just verbal diarrhea, just words put together with a speech pattern that makes it sound like it's such evolved thinking, amazingly. And as Douglas says, that's right, try to find some debates that he's had with some people. None whatsoever. Because he knows that what he's talking about is a pile of crap, it's a pile of garbage. But he's able to make his money on basically, he's the newest member of the race baiting group, the race baiting, church, the church of race baiters that subscribe to the same thing as like Joy Reid, Al Sharpton, Jesse Jackson, and that kind of ilk. Basically, that's it. Our final clip coming up right now is being Douglas Murray. Rita's asked about what do you think is going to happen with this huge Hunter Biden story, and is it going to spill over and touch the president, his father, Joe Biden. So let's go that clip right now.
Now to the first son, Hunter Biden, who was today indicted on 9 charges, including 3 felonies. He faces a possible 17 years in prison after spending millions on his lavish party lifestyle while dodging taxes, allegedly. But of course, this really isn't about Hunter Biden. It's about his father and whether members of the Biden family were enriching themselves selling access to the vice president and perhaps even the president. Tell me how you see this story, Douglas.
It's extraordinary, Rita, because this story really does seem to be sort of finding its way to a kind of culmination. For years, the problem with the Hunter Biden story has been firstly that it was suppressed. Of course, the New York Post's Twitter account, Facebook accounts, others were suppressed when they revealed the first stash of information from the famous laptop. So the first thing is there's always been...
Remember? Russian disinformation. Nothing to see here, folks. We're just going to suppress this story. We're going to basically, we're going to cancel. Remember the New York Press's Twitter account? New York Post Twitter account? Nothing to see here, folks. Nothing at all. It's just, again, it's Russian disinformation. Trust us. We're the CIA. We're the FBI. We're the DOJ. Just trust us. We know what we're talking about, a-holes.
This attempt to cover up the story, but the second, in a way, even bigger follow-on from that is why is the first son apparently immune from things that would be crimes if anyone else carried them out? Other people aren't allowed to not pay taxes. Other people aren't allowed to wave a gun they don't have the right to own around on
two-tier justice system.
They're not allowed to smoke crack and just sort of, photograph themselves doing it. And never mind the influence. That's even before you get to the influence peddling. There's just stuff that he's got away with, which most Americans say, we wouldn't get away with that. And so that plays into this two-tier justice system.
Yes.
But the real thing, as you say, Rita, is the influence peddling, where all of the millions came from to fund this lavish lifestyle. Joe Biden has spent a life in politics in America that can make you moderately rich. It cannot make you fantastically rich unless something else is going on.
Just like Douglas is saying here, rules for thee, but not for you and me. Rules for the elite, rules for the country club class, not rules for country class. We're just a bunch of hicks, hayseeds, slaves, vassals, peons. Doesn't matter. Hillary Clinton can do whatever the hell she wants, right? She can do whatever, put out a fake dossier, do all kinds of things, have, just reams and reams and reams of paper that are marked top secret that she can have come to her server at home, to her printer. She can do whatever the heck she wants. She can, break telephones with a hammer. She can wipe off her computer with bleach bit and clean it up. And no obstruction of justice there. But if you and I were to do something like that, we'd be perp walk with handcuffs on her. We'd have chain anklets, handcuffs on her wrists, behind our back, probably, chained to her neck, like you see in Planet of the Apes, and perp walked and thrown away and the keys thrown away. Because again, rules for them, but not for us, right? The same rules. Oh, we're gonna get hit with those, but not for them. Anyways, folks, we appreciate you taking the time to watch. You've been watching the Dr. Nasir Shaikh Show. I've been your host, Dr. Nasir. If you haven't done so already, subscribe to our channel, like, share, and follow us in the comments below. Let us know what you think of what Douglas was saying, or my comments as well. Check out our other videos at the links above and below, and I'll leave you with my final thought, which has always been, when you're right, and when you're left, you're wrong. Until next time, folks, take care and stay safe.